Welcome back and watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Now, oil stocks listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange had a rough start in the first quarter of the year. Also had issues with a fuel scarcity, which also impacted on oil firms' profitability. Bosun Omofaye joins me to talk more about this. Good morning, Bosun.
It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here. So let's talk about the market.
Let's talk about energy. Okay, energy. So where do we start, folks? Let's get what's making the news across the energy market. Let's look at the Nigeria Electricity Regulation ordering the Abuja Power Distributor to refund some of the customers. Details of that coming out from the regulatory agency. It's headed by Sam Amadi. That is one big story that's happening in the market right now, and you may be interested in that. Perhaps it could be your turn when you could get some refund from those, what you call overbilling. Now, electricity tariff is a major issue in the Nigerian electricity market, and the regulators being up in arms between the consumers and electricity distributors. Now, one other story also in the energy market is the tariff issue, but of course I've heard about the refineries. Port Harcourt refinery, the management says they will be ready for business very soon. And just overnight, Warri Refinery, also based in the Niger Delta, all-rich Niger Delta, says it will start production. And that news came in today. And of course, that will mean that Warri Refinery, with installed capacity of 125,000 barrels per day, will now be producing 62,500 barrels per day, and that will amount to about 4.6 million liters of petrol every day. So from Port Harcourt to Warri, the refineries are getting back on stream. Don't forget, Nigeria has 4 petrol refineries, and these 4 refineries had been suboptimal in many years. These 2 refineries, located in the Niger Delta, are the first to come back on stream, then getting back to business. And Oando Energy Resources, that's the frontline indigenous oil firm, just announced a new set of directors had its annual general meetings about 2 days ago. Those announcements have just since been forwarded to the regulatory authorities. Oando Energy Resources is listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Now let's move on and take a look at the news and earnings now from the energy market. In the first quarter, as you heard from Harriet, it was a topsy-turvy first quarter of 2015 for the listed energy firms. Japol Oil Services is involved in logistics business in the oil and gas sector, one of the earliest companies to be listed on the exchange for the energy services. Japol Oil declared an 18.9% revenue loss for 2014 full year. Earnings per share was down massively, 1,150. But for the oil majors, the retailers, I want to call them the major retailers, if you call them, Total and MRS, we have some of the numbers here. Remember, Total reported 223.2 million naira loss in first quarter 2015. Earnings per share for that oil retailer was 79% negative year on year. That's the earnings per share Total. Of course, you had the full number there. The MRS, which is another indigenous oil retailer, reported revenue decline of 11.7% in first quarter. Earnings per share also down 632% in first quarter alone. That's year on year, and reported almost 200 million naira in net loss. Now, those data from ProShare Nigeria. Now, let's get to oil and gas. Look at those 7 oil firms that we have on our market, with the exception of Seplat, which is into indigenous crude oil production. Yesterday, Seplat dragged that sector down when it suffered 2.37%. That's the most capitalized company within the oil and gas space in the market. You have Corn Oil, however, much smaller, up by 2.38%, while Forty Oil, that's been the big boy in the market. Forty Oil, you can see there, well, the petrol price is advertised at 97 there, but the share price is 179, double it at the closing bell on the market yesterday, 1.06. Of course, you see more volume in Oando. We'll talk about the conclusion of Oando's Energy Resources annual meeting, 5.3 million. So the biggest volume mover in the oil and gas sector on our market yesterday was Oando, but off track by 59 kobo at 16 $159.95. Total finished off at $159.99. Seplat at $330. Corn oil finished at $40.95. Mobil was at 148 naira, and MRS been flat for the second trading session in the week. There's been no movement on Mobil and MRS since the start of the week. 148 for Mobil and MRS at 54.
Well, Bolson, that's interesting, you know, because these are stocks that, you know, ordinarily
are tied to petrol.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you would expect that, yes, we've been seeing a lot of, there's been scarcity and there's been, you know, problems getting in this product and the rest of it. But investors were particularly interested in these stocks at one time, and so you haven't. They are still
interested. If you holding,
if
you're holding these stocks, you're not going to let go. It's like holding an OPL license. If you're like holding an OPL, you have a license to do crude oil in the Niger Delta Basin, you're not going to let go, no matter the price of crude oil. So even if price of crude oil, if crude oil falls to $3 a barrel, you're not likely to let go of your license. No, you don't let go. So if you're holding these stocks as well, Seplat, Oando, MRS, Forty Oil, Corn Oil, you're not going to let go. Majority of those who hold these assets are institutional investors, so they had them in block. They're not going to let go. Now look at Oando, just the subsidiary, the oil-producing part of Energy Group, of that Energy Group, Indigenous Energy Group, finished its annual general meeting, look for, appoint new directors and what have you, and you see volume, 5.36 million in one single day at 16.95. So they're not going to let go. So any Nigerian who has any opportunity to get into any of these oil companies are not going to let go. So whether there's petrol scarcity or there is increase in petrol, and again, everybody is holding on. What would the new administration do? If you'd fully deregulate that retail end of the petroleum industry, and you see prices around 100, perhaps 120, definitely it's going to come back to those guys. So don't look at the minus. Just keep your eyes on.
Or the fact that it seems as if it's a little stagnant these days.
Yes, because it's a little bit of a wait and see attitude. Now these are all big boys in the retail, at the retail of the energy market, and they are part of the entire value or entire supply chain, whether it is premium spray or aviation fuel. Oando is deep into that. Of course, you have a few others who are not listed on the exchange, like Sahara Energy and whatever. But Corn Oil is also in that. Oando is there. Total is there. Mobil is there. They're all involved in this. They're also involved in gas, the LPG, the one you use cooking at home. I haven't eaten at your place, but I'm going to remember that. So I'm going to try to find out the kind of gas you use in cooking. So I'm going to visit you one of these days. Okay. So this is a big business. So oil and gas business is very, very big. If you hold any of these shares, yes, you're going to be there. So the share prices may look a little bit stagnant. They are going to suffer some part of the repercussions of the subsidy debt, the unpaid. We're not sure what is going to happen, whether there's a food regulation. They keep importing, and according to information, there are about a dozen oil vessels that are waiting in Apapa, the Lagos, to offload the PMS so that to reduce the problems that we currently have with the scarcity. All these are good news. However, these guys will have to wait and see where the new administration goes. But investors, meantime, will hold their hands on the shares. I can't see anybody buying, anybody throwing off 5 million units of Oando. We put it out on the street now. Some folks are picking up.
Let's tie this into this, latest developments with regards to refineries. We know that Port Harcourt refinery at the end of the month, 5 million liters from Port Harcourt. Now Warri refinery is coming up, and we're seeing what they're saying they're expecting to produce about 4.6 million liters of petrol per day. Every day.
Very
interesting. How does this tie in?
Very interesting. See, this is resurrection.
I like that.
This is resurrection is what is beginning to look like the NNPC and its various subsidiaries are going to go through self-imposed reform. It's not likely they're going to wait for President Buhari to do it. Perhaps he's going to draw some blood if he does that. So these guys very quickly are getting wise and say, let's put our house together. But suddenly, these folks are putting these refineries together. They're coming out in the news. In the last 2 years or 3 years, they've been silent. You don't hear nothing about them. The last I ever heard from the former immediate past petroleum minister was that those refineries will be privatized in the first quarter of 2014. It never happened. Nothing was heard since then. Suddenly, as soon as May 29 was over, before June 29, in less than 30 days of President Buhari's in the saddle, who knows how it works, The refineries are started, by tomorrow we'll hear from Kaduna Refinery.
Probably.
And then perhaps before the end of the year, all the refineries started producing at optimum. Now look at Warri going to do 50% capacity. Port Harcourt is targeting 80%. If you add that, that's about 130% to meet estimated daily consumption of about 40 million barrels per day. Now we're getting somewhere. Now what does this do? It saves us our foreign reserves not being taken out to pay the refineries in Rotterdam, the ones in Hamburg, the vessels that we pay in dollars and things like that. Now, if the refineries start working, then you can look at how you get more jobs generated within those refineries. What happened to what we did many years ago? These are issues that are beginning to be happening. Now, if you go on the social media right now, everybody's getting happy. Okay, yippee, the refineries are working. You can't have 4 assets that are lying fallow, costing billions of dollars.
Which also means there will be a reduction in imports.
Yes, that's reduction in imports. But our friends overseas are not likely going to be happy. But okay, hold on a minute. Charity needs to start at home. Now, if you look at the Indonesians, they are setting up new refineries. And you know what? They're targeting Nigerian crude to supply to their own refineries. They are creating jobs in Indonesia. On our back, they have 18 months, and they are setting up about 6 new refineries with serious capacity, and because Nigeria has one of the best crude, and they're putting their crude, our crude, in their refineries. Now, why don't we put it in our own refineries, create jobs here, save money in dollar terms, save hard currency, and we can use that for so many other things. Now, this looks like you have the administration coming in, getting it right, and everybody's getting the body language of the new president, who seems to be talking less, but the way his body shakes, well, you know what is said about being a soldier. Once a soldier, always a soldier.
Well, Bosun, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
I'm sure you're soldiering on the show.
Oh, well, definitely going to be soldiering on the show, and Business Morning will continue in just a moment. Please join me again.